let's say, psychology and understanding humans a little bit better. And that's something that I don't know. I think I would want to teach anyone who had to join me or be around me as an example. And I think that's something you forget when you're a bit further into your career because it comes a lot more naturally. If I had to look at my business partner or my previous employer, um, I've always thought, how naturally does this come to them? How do they know how to ask these open-ended questions? How do they see how to read these humans that are in front of them? How do they know when to ask the right questions and dig into that person's emotions and psyche? And that's something that's actually really hard to learn from a podcast or a book. But for me, probably one of the most important things, not only for the client, but also for your personal sales and growth in your business. Um, it's just something I've been thinking about quite a bit. And I think focusing on that in the last year or two has helped me more than anything else.
No, Dylan, I get you. I mean, being in front of people, there's no better way to learn. You know, you got to get people to sit in front of. Okay. Um, and I mean, I completely get what you say. The fact is that by reading books and articles and listening to podcasts like Trap, for instance, I'm a big fan. You listen to real people who are doing what we do on a day-to-day basis in different types of businesses, and you're learning. So the point I'm trying to make is that when you've got your CFP, I only got my CFP like 10 years into what I was doing, because when I started, it was a sales job. Um, and I learned because, I went through the yellow pages. You guys don't even know what that is. It was yellow pages, drove into Utenake and Dispatch every night to go and see people in my city golf, to try and sell a 10-year endowment, because that was the minimum term, or an RA, or a family provider, or an education provider. Um, Most of you guys entering the industry now don't have that privilege, because you come in, with a degree, and and I know some people are going to hate me for this, but it's the simple truth. So whatever the hardship you guys think there is, it is, but it's nothing compared to your forefathers who came before, and what they had to do to get to where they are today. So I agree with you. I mean, sitting in front of people, there is no better way of learning and sharpening your skills and whatever. And you're right. You can listen to podcasts. You can listen to these guys who read about lifestyle or write about lifestyle planning and all that. But if you're not going to actually do it and experience it firsthand, then you're not going to be able to test those skills and get better at them.
Mm.
I think the biggest thing about being a proper lifestyle planning is you really have to care. You really have, and I say that, and everyone, you can look at me and say, like, fuck, of course we care. You really, really have to care deep down. If you care, however you come across to people. So when you speak to your girlfriend or your wife or your kids or your grandmother, that kind of care. If you speak to clients like that, some of us are going to have better personal skills than others. Some of us are better listeners. I'm a really bad listener. Um, my wife tells me that. So we will all eventually get better at what we do. But I promise you, you can have all the skills, you can go on all the coaching courses in the world. But if you don't really care about the person sitting in front of you, uh, that's it. A guy can have 40 years experience, but if you care more, that's going to make the difference. So,
Mm.
Dylan, I take what you say about sitting in front of people, but take it from me, nearly 35 years. If you are not going to constantly try and improve yourself, then you're going to have to question your passion
Mm.
about this industry. It's it's very, very simple. If after 35 years, I'm still trying to learn, I'm still trying to get better at what I'm doing, then no one with 20 years experience can say, well, they've reached the plateau where now they know everything and they're going to cruise along. And I think I think it's with anything in life, whether you're talking about your golf game. I mean, you're going to buy new clubs, you're going to try different things, you're going to watch a YouTube video, and I think it is really important. So, but thank you
No,
for that.
I agree. And then the other thing I was just thinking of is what I learned from the group. It was interesting. I recall when I started, there must have been in some meetings, you can correct me, I'm sure there were like 30 or 40 people in some of the meetings. And I mean, even sitting here today, there were about 17 people. And I've seen the same thing in my business and our license. It's quite big. I think there are probably 200 advisors and their aspirations to grow to 2,000 in the next few years. Um, but even in my business personally, we've probably turned over 7 planners a year that have either entered and exited every year. And it's just testament to how difficult it is, and people don't understand. Even when they come for interviews and you tell them how difficult it is, it doesn't quite hit home. Um, and I only started 5 or 6 years ago, but only been a like full-on advisor, I'd say, for 3.5 years, probably. And if I had to compare the work I've put in compared to a lot of people around me, it must have been double or triple, and yet my flows now only cover about, I would say, 70%. They cover about my debit orders now, and that's really pushing very hard. Um, and I don't think people quite understand how difficult it is to remain in the industry at the start when you're starting from a zero base. You know, it can be very rewarding. Don't get me wrong, but I think that's something the group has taught me, that, yeah, it is extremely difficult, and you're going to have to be consistent and switched on every single day to remain in the profession. And from there, you can build a thriving business if you implement things, like you said, by looking at who you're dealing with, and really trying to refine your book and making it profitable as well, balancing helping people versus living and sustaining a decent business. So yeah, that's been very valuable to me, and it's nice seeing other people around me who are just as committed and who care for the profession, and want to help other people build on what they're doing.
No, I think that's right, Dylan. I mean, and I keep saying it, and at the risk of repetition, but this is a really, really hard industry to make it in. I mean, we've got Shannon sitting here who said he needs to grow his business because he's got clients dying and clients immigrating. So it never gets easier. And I think it's just part of the struggle. And again, the difference between the entry points that I had and probably Shannon, those older of us who kind of fell into the industry, versus the new generation, you guys who go and study, get qualified, and choose it as a profession. It's completely different entry points. And um, but one thing doesn't change. It's really, really hard to get good at what you do, and then you can be really good at what you do but not make any money. I mean, I don't actually know a tougher profession than this. I really, really. My brother's a lawyer, my brother-in-law's a actuary, my sister's a physio, the other one's an accountant. I mean, I can go on, and like, they don't have it as hard as we do, but the rewards, both not just financially but emotionally, when you work with people and you change people's lives, are fantastic. I mean, for me, that's why, like, I can't see myself stopping, because I just absolutely love what I do. But you're right, it comes with a lot of hard work, and you're either gonna do that work in 5 years, or you're gonna do it in 10 years. Everyone can work at their own pace, but without doing those laps. Think about swimming. If you're not going to do those laps, you need to do a certain amount of laps before you get to a point, and it can take you as long as you want. But if you're not going to do it, then you got to accept that that's how long it's going to take you. So, thanks, Dylan. Russell, you got your hand up, and then we go into Marguerite.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, thanks, Dylan, for also sharing. I think one thing that Dylan also kind of like pointed out, that I think for those of you, if it's not already like, prevalent or spoke about before, is that I think the one big value add I also that we tend to overlook in this group is that um we all have similar problems, and also I would say like no one's hardship problems is not as bad as the other. For example, I think Dylan, you mentioned it, and Dirk was also mentioning, comparing like when Dirk started out to versus a younger advisor now. I think that's one thing that we can also give assurance in like this group. It's like there's no one's discounting your challenges or the obstacles you're facing. I notice in past LFP sessions, for example, not specific point him, but like I think maybe that's also where I saw a lot of like young advisors maybe feel in this group feel like they unheard of, because and I saw Yondela mention that in one of the sessions, is that, the older advisors, and it's weird because I'm split in between because I've had best of both, but like the older advisors are saying like, you're not having to put in the miles or do the constant work or drive in. I mean, Dirk, I sympathize with you as well. Like, I had Monique help me with my sales travel logbook the other day, and she was reviewing old ones. There were times when I drove to dispatch in Utenake like 10 times a week to see clients for the first time with no expectation of getting paid. And that was just to have a first one or two or three meetings, driving there and back, even after hours. So I think each group has, or each person that's in their different journey, we've all had our own problems, but it's also a safe space to share because we're not discounting each other's work. I think there's also lessons to learn from each side, from the older advisors. It's like what you can learn as young advisors, like no matter what you put in the reps, should I call it, right? And then the challenges maybe for a younger advisor now is like, okay, I don't have to drive so much as an old advisor used to, but now a constant problem that I face is proving my value or my knowledge or my experience when like we don't get trusted much because we seem so young, and a lot of bigger or more clients want to go to an old advisor. So then it'd be like, how do we demonstrate wisdom or experience if we're still young amongst like the sea of advisors, and the young advisor would know more of like, okay, how can I use, they would be more technology equipped to do that versus an old advisor. So I think it's a good thing of like this group, you can share each other's like problems and we're not discounting each other's challenges, and both of us can like from both generations can take lessons away from it. And then the other thing, I think what I wanted to mention from what Dirk was saying with Dylan earlier about, you also learn a lot when you sit in front of clients. This group, which I think is also a hidden kind of like gem that we haven't touched on, we maybe might have touched on. But because this is such a diverse range of group of like advisors from different ages and different tenures and different types of businesses, we could also use this group to like share, okay, with certain client scenarios, how do you handle, for example, a client meeting? How take me like walk me through like what does a client go through when they meet with you or when they provide these questions to you, and we can share like what a young person does versus or younger tenure person does versus an older person, and that actually will show like stuff that we're not seeing in our our blind sides that we're not aware of. So that's also, it's a safe space for I would say sharing scenario what if situations and how we each differently approach those things, because I do that, for example, with like Brian, Terrence, and Mel sometimes. And I've learned a lot from them, even though, for example, I've been 10 years in the industry now. There's still stuff. I still feel like a young advisor that still has a lot to learn. And then I think also with something I've done personally, but I've also picked up with over the last couple of years, is that the problem with social media and technology now, there's so much content, so much broadcast out there. You go on LinkedIn, I mean, Kitsis and Brendan Fraser put a long list of all these things you should be listening to, reading. And I think Michael Kitsis did a post recently about it where an advisor contacted him saying, I feel so overwhelmed because there's so much content that I get told on LinkedIn that I need to listen to. What do I do? And I agree with Dirk as well. You need to like consume some form of content, but maybe a better approach to kind of approach it is downsize it to maybe so that you don't feel super overwhelmed. Downsize it to like 3 people you follow or 3 types of content you want to follow, right? Instead of like 10. And then instead of just consuming for enjoyment, which is also nice, try and see if you can apply it and work on a basis of like, okay, if I learn this, what is afterwards, like what is the key things I can take away from and what can I apply it in my practice? Because I, for example, just using my own experience, I caught myself in that trap. I think the last couple of years, it's nice to like, I enjoy reading books and listening to podcasts, but I found that I wasn't applying a lot of it. So I'm just accumulating information. And then I was also getting overwhelmed personally by like, there's so many podcasts and things out there, and I'm not getting through to all of it. So I think information and learning and growth is important because that's how we stay relevant, how we upscale our human potential side of value add versus, so that we stay ahead of like not being overtaken by ChatGPT or robo advice. but then also asking like, okay, whatever I consume, because you are giving up time for that, which costing you money as an advisor and more so as an entrepreneur. What can I take away from it? Can I apply it practically? And then that actually determines like if it's valuable to you, you know? So yeah, just my thoughts.
Thanks, Russell. Marguerite?
Sure, Russell has touched on a lot of what I wanted to say. So I think one of the things that I really enjoy about our profession is that we get challenged on so many levels, intellectually, technically, psychologically, emotionally. And this group has actually become a phenomenal support base because we've got people across the board from such a diverse background that if I need help in a specific area and I put up my hand for help, somebody is going to reach out and say, I can guide you on this, I can give you some feedback on that. So it actually really feels as if this group has got my back. And I think if we've been working alone for a long time, the industry can become very lonely. And being in this group has given me a great sense of security in knowing there's people out there who's got my back and who share the same passion for our clients and whose input I can trust. So I think, yeah, what stands out for me about this group and what I've learned over the past year or two, Dirk, is just the incredible power in community and having these conversations and being challenged on different levels. Thanks.
Thank you, Marguerite. Yeah, and thanks for your contribution over the last couple of years too. Dom, can I pick on you?
How's it? Yeah, I think that what Russell and Marguerite and Shannon I share pretty similar sentiment. You know, it's been a challenging. I've also kind of like Russell, I've got a foot in both side of, you know, I took over from my dad, so there was a lot of that old school mentality, and I elected to go and kind of change my way of doing things, and there was a bit of clashing along the way, but I think I've found my footing, and he's, although no longer in the industry and hasn't been since 2017, he started to almost understand my way of thinking, and it's allowed me to, you know, this group has formed that support, like Marguerite said. It's, you know, when there's challenges and we all share everything. So it's, the group's almost been a bit of a navigating path for me through quite a challenging time. And while I might have sat back and listened, there were times when knowing that we had people were sharing and going through similar things, it really did help me kind of refocus. And yeah, I've done a lot of work within the business to get it to where it is now. And I think every day, every decision that I make, every difficult chat that I have with a client to, you know, part ways in an amicable way, because that revenue versus expectation is misaligned. And yeah, so it's been a challenge, but it's been a good challenge. And I think coming out the other side and being able to, you know, have a conversation like this where we can see the silver lining through difficult times, yeah, it's been a great help for me, and I appreciate all you guys.
Thanks, Dom. Yeah, I think, you know, there's a double-edged sword. Like, if you're on this group, not only are you in the financial planning industry, but you're on this group because you're wanting to learn, number one, because no one's forcing you to be here, and you do care. So I know that. I emphasize it because I really think that people don't quite understand the importance of really caring, being present. And as much as we're learning and we're cutting our teeth continuously and learning all the time, I think one thing we got to be aware of is that we can actually be selfish.
Yeah.
And if that is whether we're dealing with people who are actually going to be able to pay us, so we can all we've all got those clients we look after who can't afford us, but we do it because we are good people and we care and we have a history or a relationship. But there is a time, and trust me, the younger ones, when you get to Shannon and my age, you do realize that you do need to also be a little bit selfish at times, because what we do needs to translate into being able to live the life that you want to live as well. And then also, just valuing, like if you, it doesn't, none of us needs to be a great financial planner because we win an award, or whether it's for this or that or whatever. If we're giving our heart and soul to this job, then we know whether we are doing that or we're not doing that. And I think you do need to. I've spoken before about self-care, because this is a violent industry that we're in. If you're going to sit back, that's fine. Then you're going to be part of the crowd. But I mean, like if you're going to take on companies that are doing things which are wrong, you're going to get a backlash every now and then. But if you're doing it because you care about the clients or you care about the industry, you've got to stick your neck out sometimes. But you've got to be selfish.
Yeah, and I think that a big thing that I've learned through all of this is that while I do, planning for clients, I think that, and I've put my heart and soul into it, and I've almost overextended myself. I've got to a point now where I've had to reflect and kind of plan for my life and go, well, I don't want to be spread so thin. I don't want to be not prioritizing my well-being, and because that affects the offering that I have for clients. So it's been an adjustment from that side, but in a good way, because it makes me want to do better and be better, and plan for the year ahead. And it's the first year in a long time that I'm actually looking forward to, I'm aligning my new client base, and I'm in no way doing it from a brutal standpoint. Every reason is valid, and I'm almost standing up for, taking on clients that align with, and they understand I'm not available right now, but I'll get back to you as soon as I am. It's that expectation of, and I think that our generation, we're learning to kind of overcome that, where we can't be available to everyone all the time. You're sitting with a client. I'm sitting in a meeting now and a client's phoning me, but I'll just respond to them saying, oh, I'm just in a meeting, I'll get back to you. Whereas before, my camera would have been off. I probably would have answered the phone call and been distracted from the group. So I think that it's an adjustment that I'm making in all facets of life, and that's a positive step in business as well.
I think it's important. I think this whole generational thing is, maybe you need to look at it differently. Because, I know you'll hate when I talk about when I started, but it was before computers. We had a rate book. We had a lever arch file, and you wrote out the quote. You added so much per 10,000 of life cover, disability, dread disease didn't exist yet, no income protection, and then add the policy fee. I don't think when I was your age, Dom, I was probably not too different to you are. It's just that my world was very different. My world was, then I had a rate book. The only computer was at head office, and we put stuff in an overnight bag, and even that was a miracle. It got there the next day or 2 days later. So the world you're in is completely different. You have a smartphone where you could actually run your business off that if you wanted to. If you really had to, you could. And I think the benefit of age and experience is, and that's why I say this, and it'll irritate some of you guys, but you will get to where Shannon, I'm picking on you, where Shannon and I are, and you're going to realize, you're going to think, Jesus, I remember what Shannon and Dirk said, and actually now I really understand that. It's phases of life. Like, you go through life with, within the industry, within our personal lives, our relationships, our marriage, our families. I'm a grandfather now, guys. I have been for 3.5 years. So I don't think generations are different. I just think the world that we grow up in is very different. So when
Yeah.
I'm comparing me to when I was your age, Dom, my world was completely different to the world that you have. I mean, like talking to someone on video, I couldn't even comprehend that. If you had said to me, "How old are you now?"
35.
Okay, all right. When I was 35 or even 25, I couldn't even comprehend that one day I would be sitting here in a meeting with 20 people looking at them through a camera. I mean, we still had, you bought a 12 spool or a 24 or 36 spool, and,
Yeah.
So I think the world is very different. The beauty is that a group like this, I think, is that we're that diverse and we can all learn from each other. And trust me, the older ones of us do learn from you younger people as well. So it's not
It goes both ways,
it does go
100%.
both ways. Yeah. Yeah. Ferdy, I'm going to pick on you next.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I can't pick on one or two things that I've learned from the group because I learn like a lot of things every time that we meet. But yeah, it just kept me keeping my perspective of what I want to do for clients and how I want to grow my business and everything. So that helps me a lot with that. And to know that it's not easy to go through your process from A to Z every time and to challenge yourself and to challenge your thought processes. So yeah, this group just helps me a lot with keeping my perspective and not to run with everything that I hear every day from the industry. And yeah, so it lets me help keep my course that I want to do because I want to sleep well at night and feel that the work that I do is good and I add value. So yeah, that's what the group does for me and helps me with. So yeah, I'm appreciative of every time that I get on this call to hear everything that I can go back and go to my process and tweak that and tweak this. And yeah, so that's what I'm learning all the time.
Great. Thanks, Ferdy. Anybody else want to add anything?
Maybe just a question. Dom, earlier you said that you're excited for this year and you want to make some plans. And I personally really enjoy doing goal setting. I do it every year for myself as well as for my business. So I maybe just want to hear from everyone else. Is it something that you do? And I'd love to even chat about it one day. Is how do you set goals for your business in terms of growth and what you want to achieve, or maybe even experience you want to deliver to clients as an example? And are you meticulous in terms of planning it out for the year? Do you reflect on it? Because it's something I actually really enjoy and it's helped me a lot. Just to give context, last year, well, in 2023, I set goals and I was so disappointed at the end of the year because I probably only did about 20% of them. But I looked back at my 2023 goals when I was planning this year and I realized I'd hit almost every single one, but it was only an extra year ahead. And it really helped me in my business. So I'm just curious if anyone else does that or to hear how you do it. That's just a topic because I'm gonna have to jump off the call. Unfortunately, I've got to drive to Pretoria now. But yeah, just saying I wanted to exit with.
Thanks, Dylan. Anyone got anything on goal setting? Russell, I'm sure you do.
Geez, okay, it's a good topic. Yeah, so I actually do that, ironically, before Dylan jumped off. I think it's very important because we get so caught up as business owners and financial planners trying to always improve a year. And also because it's all competitive, it's easy to fall into the trap of like you just keep on chasing more without taking consideration or being aware of like what you've achieved so far. You know, it's like I saw a podcast with Tony Robbins recently, which is this one motivational speaker, and he said that 99% of the time, especially for ambitious individuals, we are so focused on what we don't have than what we do have. So you keep feeling this, trying to fill this empty void or chasing more without taking into account like what you've achieved so far. And also with social media, you make the mistake of comparing your mountain to someone else's mountain. For example, I'm like, I should be at Dirk's level. Meanwhile, he's got 35 years ahead of me in the field, you know, and he's been grinding day out. So I think that's a mistake that a lot of us make. So coming back to goal setting, it's very important because I think that it also lays out like what are you hoping to achieve this year from, and I've looked at it from two ways, like a return on life point of view, lifestyle financial planning, but also from a business and scaling point of view of like where do you want to be, where your business want to be. It's easy, and I think if you can add some form of measurement or goals of how you're tracking it. I personally believe you're not tracking any of your goals, then you're not really going to see the progress that you want to see. Because it's easy, for example, to say, like, I want to lose weight this year or get fit. But if you don't have weekly, monthly goals that you are actually tracking, how do you know or how do you measure if you're making progress? So I think that's very important. And in terms of goals, you know, I admit, I think this is a popular thing amongst goals, but my girlfriend got me into like doing vision boards. So I did a vision board for my firm of like where practically I think it helps so much in terms of adding visuals instead of us. We are usually focused on the numbers where you add of like, okay, what does your ideal, like we always ask clients, what does the ideal situation look like? And what, to kind of connect to why they come and see us. So for ourselves, if we can say, what does our ideal situation look like by the end of this year? That also gives us more, I would say, substance than just saying, I want to double my income. You know, I want to double my business income. Okay. What does growing your business or doubling your business income going to look like at the end of the year? What, you know, it's like similar to like we always say clients are asking like, I want to be wealthy or I want to have R1 million. Okay. If I give you that money now today, what does it do for you? How is it going to change your business and your life now? So I think it's very important just to kind of have realistic goals for the year in terms of your life and also like the business, and also add, I would say, milestones are how you're tracking it. Because if you don't track it, and what we've also done with me and Monique, we set up sessions at the end of every month to reflect on like, okay, where are we with the business goals? Then you won't know if you're making progress, and also it won't keep you disciplined to doing the activities that you need to do to achieve those goals. So another thought that I've picked up from a book or podcast is that if you set up your goals, you next thing you need to do is look at your work calendar. Are your goals reflection of the habits and the tasks tied to those goals that you've set up for yourself? Because 9 times out of 10 we say we have all these goals, but then if we look at our calendars, we're not even doing any of the activities or the tasks that are needed to get us there. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on the goals. So yes, I am doing goal planning.
Thanks, Russell. I actually did vision boards years ago, and I remember and then I brought it to my office, and then when I moved office, I found it, and it was actually crazy. I used to wake up every morning, and I would go and I would kind of meditate and like do affirmations. And when I found the vision board, probably about 3 or 4 years later, everything that I put on that list actually had come to pass. So I know it's very airy-fairy, but it does work. I think we all know the subconscious works. You know, that's why you get great ideas when you're sleeping at night or when you're in the shower. You know, these great ideas hit us. So the mind is always working. Anyone else got anything to add? Diane?
Dirk, if I can add,
Yes, Eddie.
one book that I've really enjoyed on that topic is Measure What Matters from John Dewar. So it's just a really good way of coming up with business objectives. So the language is objectives and key results. So that might be of interest.
Okay.
I also need to jump off to a client meeting. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks. Peter, you got your hand up. You muted, Peter. Sorry, but
so there we go. Sorry, my camera is off. I was moving around. Excuse me. On the goal setting, I agree with Russell. It is very important to not only kind of write down what you want to achieve, but also visualize it and break it into periods. There's always the saying, you overestimate what you can do in a year and underestimate what you can do in 5. And I've realized that a lot. We always think we can do a lot, and then when it gets down to business, it's tough. So taking that yearly goal, breaking it down into monthly goals, weekly goals, daily tasks, because you can't really influence the output, but you can influence the input, what you put in, what are the daily things that you're going to do to get you closer to that goal. And I think something that has been massively valuable for me last year that I started about a year ago is tracking my time and being very meticulous. I had like a very basic time tracker on my computer. And then every time I started with a specific type of task, whether it's a client meeting or planning or admin or networking, I track that kind of component. And then at the end of the year, I can reflect back and see where have I spent most of my time and where was time wasted. Because we always think we're busy, but we're not always working. And that helped me to keep focused and to know that if the timer is on, I'm working. If it's off, I take a break. And it also puts it into context as to what is realistic for you and when you should say no to certain things. Because if you just say yes to everything, you're not going to make any progress. You have to be selective. Time being the most valuable commodity. Yeah, so I think that's, apart from everything that has been mentioned so far on the group that we've learned, that's been very valuable for me to learn.
Great. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for that, man. Diane?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my best lesson last year, Dirk, was definitely micromanaging. Even setting my goals, monthly goals, and going back after 3 months. If I haven't reached it or where I want it to be, I go back and see, okay, where's the recipe going wrong? Or what can I just up a bit to see if I can work on like the time schedule? That's also another thing for me. Still, this year, I'm trying to start with my CFP. So I'm not sure. I'm sitting here suffocating, like, oh my goodness, my work and this. And like Dominique said, you have to look after your own well-being, because otherwise, if you can't think clearly, where's your perspective? Where's your goals? Where's your focus? So yeah, time management also goes into the thing of micromanaging, but also don't, how can I say, don't be so hard on yourself if you don't reach your goal, to just leave it and say, okay, no, it's not for me. Just keep on tweaking the stuff. There's definitely just small things. And also this group, talk to people who has similar experiences, or reach out, I would say, and have one-on-ones rather than having this big conversation. I think there's also influence in that.
Yeah. No, certainly. I mean, you mentioned you want to start your CFP, and I think just, again, let's be real. I mean, there are many people who have a CFP who are really not great financial planners, and there are many people who don't have a CFP who are great financial planners. You know, one piece of paper, or there's no one silver bullet that actually means that you're really good at what you do. And what is really good, you know, it's really good is that you're having a career that you absolutely love, and you're helping people, and you're able to feed your family. I mean, for me, that's what it means. If I've got a CFP, it adds, and it doesn't add value because it's knowledge. There's lots of places to get knowledge. I think we all, and I can say it because no one's going to see this, but I think we all question the value of the FPR, for instance. I mean, you know, we pay a lot of money every year. It's a truckload of money. What is it, like almost $600 a month? And when you're studying, when you're struggling as a youngster to like get clients and to pay all your expenses, all the things that we have to cover, you know, from a compliance point of view, and then you've still got this FPR thing, and you know, they're really good people, but I think often we feel that they're completely distant to where we are, you know, at the coalface. Being a member of the FPI is not going to make you a better or a worse person or financial planner. So, yeah, I think we have to understand that this career is a long-term career if we're going to do it that way. And the reason I say so much about ongoing learning, and that is that I believe this is what we do as a calling, and it's not something you can turn on and off. If you're a really good financial planner, it's who you are. It becomes part of who you are, and it doesn't mean that every time you're at a braai, you're talking about financial planning or a fund or investment or whatever, but it does kind of become, you know, who you are as a way of life. I think if you're going to be really good at what you do. So yeah.
I think the golden keys as well, like Russell said, don't compare yourself to anyone.
Yeah.
If you make a decision like this, the CFP thing was a good example for me, because I was going forward and backwards and forwards and backwards. And then I just sat and I focused. I took a piece of paper and I wrote it down. Why do I want to do it? So I thought, I don't need a degree. This is my passion. I love it. But I want to give more comprehensive advice, and I want to learn about how does taxation work, how does estate planning work into detail. So you need to go back to yourself. Once again, like Dominique said, it's your physical and mental health as well, and looking for your goals going forward. So it's a part of this whole big circle of life. But yeah, the golden rule is don't compare yourself to anyone. Do what you feel like is right for yourself. And if you want to stay in this career, that's the most important question for yourself. Do you love this for the passion, or are you just doing this to make money and ends meet, and you don't actually love it? So you're suffocating. So that's the biggest question, I think, for everybody new to industry and all of that. I think because I've spoken to a lot of different advisors from Cape Town, overseas and well, and there's a lot of people 5-7 years in the industry that just said, sorry, this is not for me anymore. And then they have CFP degrees. Then I'm like, but don't you feel like you wasted your time? So yeah, that's also a big question for everybody.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. There are a lot of people who are really good at sales and have made a lot of money, from my generation, but they don't do what we do, that they don't, and it's not that they don't care, they maybe just care a little bit differently, So
It's shocking
again,
to see the difference. You can, yeah. There's nothing wrong with that person, not at all. That's not what I'm saying.
yeah,
It's just you can see immediately the resemblance.
yeah.
So,
Okay, great.
I think from my side, just on that CFP post-grad journey, I think for me it was quite a differentiating space in my career, because it was a decision that I made to invest in myself, because I kind of knew that this was the path that I wanted to stay on. And that it does present its own challenges. It's by no means as easy, but it's so worth it. I think coming out the other side, if I'd done post-grad straight out of varsity or anything like that, I think my perception, that might be where people land up doing it and then changing. It's because I felt that I had a love for the industry and I knew that it was something that I wanted to do. So it made the difficult time that it was to get through and balance work and meeting with clients and assignments and everything. It just made it more manageable, because you kind of know that that's what you want to do. So I think that, Diane, I kind of know where you're coming from, but if you've made that decision for you, stick to it.
thanks, Dominique. I appreciate.
Yeah, wonderful, guys. Thanks, Tom. Anyone else have anything to add before we chat about things we'd like to discuss for the rest of the year?
Hi, everyone. I'd like to Sandsworth here. What I just gained from the group I've joined later part of last year is basically the value that you get from the group and the things that we share. I mean, currently I'm in the space where I'm starting with a brokerage, having been a tied agent for almost 8 years. So a lot of information that's being shared here is what I'm actually currently doing. I mean, for example, having had about over 200 active clients to about 17 now. And those 17 are where I'm actually selecting clients and making sure that I'm building a foundation. Obviously, one of the topics that I'm going to bring up with the 17 now is just having them to pay fees, so that I know that I build a solid book going forward. I mean, for example, I joined the industry at 38 now, but I mean, 8 years of that 10 years has been on a tied agent, where one is just was pushing targets like a salesperson. So now the decision that I made was to actually put substance into it, because I love what I'm doing, but I'm doing it in the right way, that obviously is going to take me forward. Like when I get to the ages of Derek and Shannon, this information would obviously be even more valuable, and specifically take into account that how I'm building now, it's different. And this group actually is very valuable for me to actually have part of this group, because then I learn a lot, and hopefully I will also be giving a lot of feedback in terms of my journey so that it can also help others. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Israel. And I mean, you make a really good point. You know, we all on a journey, and we've all got our own journey, and we all just at different points of it. And I think what I've learned is a big thing is to take control of your journey, because it's very easy. And the reality is we will all go through phases where we kind of cruise, and like we're going along a road, and you know, we kind of have goals, but we're not quite sure, and it's quite comfortable, you know. And then now and then you're going to hit a bump, or something's going to happen, and you look at your situation and think, actually, no, I need to take more control of this. So, you know, Zizwe, I don't believe that if you're a tired agent, I don't believe it makes you any better or any worse financial planner. I really, really don't believe that, because at the end of the day, you know, all the products are pretty much the same, you know. They really, really are. So I know there's a lot said in the industry, oh, you've got to be independent. And, you know, some people are independent, some girls are independent, and they've got 2 or 3 contracts. Others got 40. I don't think the number of contracts makes you a better or worse financial planner. Yeah, it might give you access to different things. But again, as we know with diversification investment, too much diversification isn't a good thing either. So I think what makes you a good financial planner is who you are inside, and your intentions. I think that's really important. But I mean, you're on a journey where you've gone from tied to being independent. You know, whether you have 2 or 3 or 4 contracts, I don't think dictates the value of the advice that you're going to give your clients. So thanks for that. Guys, has anyone got any like pressing points that you want to be able to cover this year moving forward? Anyone have anything that jumps out at them that you think it's something we should be doing, we should be talking about? Okay, that's fine. I'm going to have to carry on getting creative. I can do that. One thing we have spoken about that we haven't done is the possibility of a physical get together. Okay, sorry, June, you got your hand up.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, Dirk, I haven't had an opportunity, but I have been reflecting, and there's been very, very great opinions raised and, you know, lessons learned. I was just wondering, because Dylan raised it, you know, we focus a lot on the onboarding process in this group. Over all these years, we've kind of rehashed that, the onboarding process, and, you know, going into it again because we've got new members joining. And I was just wondering how useful it would be to maybe look at a goal setting kind of meeting. What would that look like? Just because Dylan raised it, because I strongly believe that goal setting is a strong process. You know, and you need to understand the mechanics around it. So why is it important to set goals? If people set goals, why do they not achieve it? You know, stuff like that. And then what would a goal setting process look like? You can take yourself through it, you can take clients through it. So because I just strongly feel like it's also a process. Yeah.
Yeah, personally, I mean, we got to find another word for goal setting, because, you know, when I meet people here, a lot of people are retired, and you go into goal setting, like, if you don't have goals, you feel like a loser. So I think we got to find another word for goal setting, because if you walk up to a man or woman in the street and say, like, what are your goals? It's like, well, geez, you know, there is stuff people want to achieve. So I completely get what you're saying, June, but sorry, it's the goal setting thing triggered that. I think we've got to find a more deeper, meaningful ways of doing things. Guys, one thing I have spoken about, and is like a physical get together. I know for some people who are close, it's a doable thing. For others, it's maybe not. But just think about that. I think it would be really cool if, I know we meet when we come through for Humans Under Management in Cape Town or some of the other big events. I've got to meet some of you personally, which face to face, which is really cool. But that's something I think I would like to try and work on this year. It would be probably quite lucky if we could all get together for a couple of days and have like a get together. So that's something that I am going to work on. Anything else that anyone would like us to focus on in the year moving forward?
So is that your goal for the group for the year, Dirk?
You got me, Dylan. There we go. I'm going to make it happen. All right. Are you going to come down, Dylan?
I come down like 4 times a year, so I'm sure hopefully I can align it 4 or 5 times.
What, down where?
It'll be nice to Port Elizabeth side.
Okay. Right.
St. Francis links, working on getting there a bit more, Dirk.
Okay, I can get you a game, eh? I know people.
100%. But yeah, I agree with June. I'd love to. The goal setting thing is cool, but I want to actually hear what goals and metrics are important to certain people. I might think it's assets under management, or maybe Shannon might think it's retaining clients as an example, and seeing how people measure their goals and what's important to them. And I think I can learn a lot from that personally. I'm not sure how everyone else feels.
No, sure. We can have a session on that. We'll make that the next session. That's a good idea. Okay. We'll share our goal setting methods and goals if we want to. We can share those. Okay. Guys, I'm going to be on another call. Thanks very much.
Thanks,
and
everyone.
thanks everyone for sharing. As always, it was great. And we'll see you next month.
Cheers,
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Cheers,
Bye.